Hello, my name is Taylor Davis Van Etta. I'm head of the Research Services Department at University of Houston Libraries, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Dr. Linda Garcia Merchants, Director of the Digital Humanities Core facility at UH. We're going to start this talk by sharing a brief history of our libraries and our institution's attempt at supporting digital scholarship, starting in 2017. The strategies we employed and challenges encountered over that period, particularly as it pertains to scaling resources and services to meet the demands of a large public R1 university. Then we'll move into an overview of our current model for capacity building through the Digital Humanities Core facility, the partnership that brought the core into being, and how we applied what we learned in the early years to this new model. We'll discuss the strategies currently in place to scale our technological infrastructure, training opportunities for faculty and students, project support, and programming. And we'll end by discussing labor and the student employment model designed to support it all and help these elements work in concert with one another. In 2017, UH Libraries launched a Center for Digital Scholarship called the Digital Research Commons and created two new librarian positions, a DH specialist, and a digital scholarship coordinator to introduce new support structures for digital work on our campus. Using the center as our home base, we launched a sponsored projects program, the backbone of the operation, which provided seed funding for 6 to 8 projects each year selected through an application process. We worked with those project teams over a 1-year period, providing consultations, project management, and resourcing from around campus where we couldn't provide it directly in order to move the projects from an ideation phase toward a prototype and eventually toward a state where they could compete for external funding. We introduced a second program, the Digital Research Institute, in 2019. This was a program open to graduate students who were working on the digital component of their thesis or dissertation or as part of a publication. The Institute ran twice each year as a 1-week intensive customized to advance those components of students' projects. A third program, DH at UH, began in April of 2020 as a series of informal Zoom chats with our project teams aimed at mimicking some semblance of normalcy and connection amid the pandemic. And this grew into a formal campus-wide program the following year aimed at building communities of practitioners across disciplines, bringing centers with librarians and UX specialists, technologists, and data scientists together to celebrate digital work being done and discuss and learn from one another in a structured way. Over the pandemic, a colleague and I designed and undertook a study of how our university was supporting interdisciplinary research with a focus on the digital humanities. We interviewed and collected data from research administrators, centers, IT and lab managers, faculty, and students, which gave us a much more refined idea of the ecosystem and where people and projects were faltering in that system. Each of the programs and approaches we implemented during these years faced limitations in terms of scalability, and the effect of those limitations we heard over and over again as we spoke to our campus stakeholders and compiled this study. Both students and faculty spoke to a lack of a centralized training ground for those interested in learning about or participating in digital work. There was no on-ramp available to students who wanted to engage in hands-on research or learn how to contribute to or see their own project idea forward. The tools and skill-based workshops we had provided through the Digital Research Commons were not the on-ramp folks needed. The Digital Research Institute was producing encouraging outcomes, but accommodated only 12 to 15 students each year. Likewise, the sponsored projects program we offered was not scalable either, not in terms of the amount of funds available, nor in the expertise we could deploy, which left many project ideas without seed funding opportunities and potential PIs without an awareness of how to discover or navigate grant opportunities, how to find collaborators or student workers, much less how to design a plan for pursuing their project. And the libraries was not in sync with grant writing patterns at the university, particularly internal funding. Social and scholarly isolation was also a major obstacle to scaling. DH at UH wasn't enough. Gathering once a year was not enough. Faculty and students needed shared spaces where they could introduce, test, and develop new ideas, gain exposure to conversations among colleagues, and engage with tools and skills that were relevant to their particular community or project. Faculty in particular needed opportunities to organize around shared research interests, methodologies, techniques, and infrastructures to workshop and engage in both project development and personal enrichment. Another major obstacle is a lack of shared infrastructure, including basic utilities that support digital work. I remember one faculty telling us that research is limited by imagination. Infrastructure breeds imagination and allows us to figure out what might be possible. Further, faculty expressed a lack of awareness and trust around centralized technology support units and systems. People don't know how to use things like the versioning built into OneDrive, another researcher told us. It's viable, but it's not useful. Researchers needed access to sustainable and adaptable technological infrastructure to develop, store, and publicly showcase their research. And many said they would invest in a culture of flexibility aimed at innovating and iterating infrastructural solutions over time. Many researchers, especially those in the humanities and social sciences, did not understand how their work could benefit from centralized computing resources, or they felt isolated from those resources, while support staff within computing units didn't seem to understand how their expertise can be impactful to these researchers and their projects. We had to bring these people together and hire people who could speak both languages, the technical side and the content side, in order to scale existing and new infrastructural solutions, build trust between people and those systems, and promote wider adoption. In 2021, as part of a new university strategic plan, our upper administration made investments to strengthen and grow the infrastructural capacity for interdisciplinary research. Part of this was an investment in the university's set of core facilities. The libraries had representation on a small team charged with putting together a report on what stronger centralized support for digital scholarship and public humanities research might look like. The report that team produced drew on some of the findings and recommendations from our study, among many other data points, and this team led to the creation of the DH Core facility in the form of a partnership between university libraries and the Hewlett Packard Enterprise Data Science Institute, with collaborators from across the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, the College of the Arts, the Division of Technology, among others. Dr. Garcia Merchant's position, a joint department between the libraries and the Division of Research, was created to design and implement the foundation of the facility. It's our goal that every person who has an interest in digital scholarship can find a pathway via the DH Core to receive the training they need and find direction to hands-on and paid opportunities regardless of their station at the university. The programming Linda designed is aimed at producing autonomous communities of scholars capable of growing and sustaining a campus culture of interdisciplinary research. Instead of the 6 to 8 projects a year the libraries could support in the past, the Core aims to support 30 to 50 projects at a given time at all levels of development. Now 2 years in, we're trending toward that capacity. The Core offers year-round opportunities for students to gain training as project managers, as well as contributors to ongoing projects, or to pursue their own idea. Over 2023 and 2024, the Core has credentialed 12 faculty in DH project planning and development, 22 graduate students across 5 programs, and 51 undergraduate students. New internships and informal gatherings are helping to ease isolation and introduce more opportunities for structured engagement across disciplines, as well as environments for team building and project building to take roots. And here I'll hand things over to Linda.
Thank you, Taylor. I would like to acknowledge the convergence of people and places over time that produces this emergence as a core facility and a community practice for DH. That includes Dr. Claudia Newhouser, Vice President and Chancellor of Research, Athena Jackson, our former Dean of Libraries, envisioning and supporting an initiative to create a campus-wide service. The U.S. Latino Digital Humanities Center, which includes Drs. Gabriela Baez-Aventura, Carolina Villarreal, and Lorena Gautreaux, for building this foundation for several generations at UH before I arrived as a postdoctoral fellow. So building a community of practice requires creating a DH core facility that leverages the collaborative methods of DH with the imaginary that defines Houston's innovative and entrepreneurial character. We recognize the talents of this community, juggling jobs, majors, service requirements, student organizations, and their families to adapt their personal technologies to research methods defined by conceptualization and ideation, problem solving, testing, and revision. Researchers at all levels have contributed perspectives and approaches to help us produce a practical, scalable, phased approach to teaching, learning, and project deliverables by working together and in manageable timeframes. And so here we have a slide that's demonstrating our community of practice through all of the different parties involved and practices involved. We think about the three pillars of education, infrastructure, and programming as core to the foundation of our community of practice. The partnership between research and the library offers a wide array of potential and actual support. For example, our micro-credential program leverages an existing program produced by our Engaged Data Science Division, the Honors College, and the Division of Technology in the Department of Engineering. Cluster computing, advanced R, and Python courses exist alongside Foundations in DH, available to any active member of the UH community. As this diagram gives us a snapshot of this vision, in the next few slides, we will look at specifics from each of these pillars. Labeled by DH scholar and archivist Thomas Padilla of the Internet Archive at the 2023 Collections as Data Vancouver Symposium, the Houston model creates opportunities for researchers and students at all levels of digital work and scholarship in a variety of forms, collaborating across STEM and the humanities to create manageable outcomes, democratizing ability, agency, and advocacy for best practices and sustainable solutions. Here we can see the specifics of our three-tiered micro-credentialing program that creates a unified language and understanding of digital work and scholarship for all three of the communities that it represents. It also takes into consideration the time constraints for each community with its virtual and asynchronous components. In 2024, we began summer internship opportunities to fund the experiential learn by doing model prevalent in much of our programming. The internship in public history and digital humanities gave 18 students the opportunity to work in a team-based approach on 6 faculty research projects across a variety of disciplines. In 2025, we will be partnering with our digital media majors for 4 design/development projects to produce deliverables by August 1st. This 25-week program includes 15 weeks of course credit, then 10 additional weeks of paid internships where 4 digital media students will perform as design development leads on faculty research sites. Infrastructure for the core includes publishing support through the commercial hosting program introduced in the micro-credentialing courses for researchers and graduate students. Our 3 portals meet the needs of our various stakeholders, including the dedicated space for USLDH to aid publishing work through their Grants and Aid program, which is external to the institution. We support our Division of Technology's use of the cloud development environment, primarily for grant-supported work, like the Sirios backend database produced through a MongoDB development. Our annual spring series of DH at UH is an opportunity to share about the work we are doing with our colleagues and, via streamed events, those colleagues in Houston and the nation. Our core facility would not exist without the hard work and generous spirit of our staff of graduate and undergraduate research specialists who support a variety of projects, software applications, and research methods, receiving compensation and credit for their contributions. Yes, our students do get paid for the work that they are performing. Our digital research specialists and graduate research assistants come from all fields and disciplines with one universal character trait. They are curious researchers interested in how and what makes the world tick from disciplinary perspectives that include statistics and neuropsychology, computer science, digital media, cultural literatures, public history, and urban sociology. The following 3 slides will present our students in their own words on working for us and for themselves, along with photos from our various training events with students. Kalina Holman spent last summer attending a classics literature fellowship at Harvard and hopes one day soon to go on to graduate school with a focus on African American literature and art. On the right side, we see DRS Carolyn No facilitating a digital workshop on ideation, where student teams produced ideations of their research projects. Here we see the ideation of the 1771 project, which at its core has a Python script that produces cleaned OCR text. Kalina's original relationship to this was coming up with this approach and the original idea to automate the text cleaning process. June Kim took up that original code and then, as his start with us as a digital research assistant, continued with developing the Python script for OCR text on that 1771 project. June is now a research technician, our first full-time staffer for the DH Core. Here we see June whiteboarding strategies for that Python script. The image of files above the photograph represents the core set of files used to run the script that now cleans 90% of the OCR errors in the 18th century texts related to this project. The photo on the far right shows June working with the staff archivist at the University Museum at Texas Southern University on a 3D artifact scanning and capture project. We are working with our fellow institution in a knowledge and resource sharing model that allows our students to gain experience working with our 3D equipment by helping this HBCU document the rich history of art and artifacts produced in its renowned art school. Our students take this understanding of research methods as they apply to their own scholarly agenda, often to graduate school. Here we see history PhD candidate Shine Trabuco presenting at the Texas DH Symposium at Baylor University on the work she did to mentor the cohort and to help build our training course program. Shine also had the opportunity to teach the inaugural undergraduate DH micro-credential course that she helped to build. The additional photos show Shine at the Coog AR lab experiencing a VR exercise with building blocks. The additional photo shows Shine helping to host our DH at UH keynote speaker last spring, Dr. Brian Carter from the University of Arizona Center for Digital Humanities. I will pass this back on to Taylor to close this out.
Thank you, Linda. And thank you to CNI for the invitation to offer this project brief. If anyone is curious to learn more about the DH Core facility or any of the programs discussed in this presentation, here's a set of QR codes that would direct you to those main points of entry. We also welcome any questions or feedback anyone may have about this presentation. Please feel free to reach out to either of us at the email addresses provided.